That is so quiet. I'm gonna just put this up to my microphone here. That's pretty darn quiet. Hello everyone, this is Take from bigheadtaco.com and welcome to BHT Studios. As promised, I said I would do first some shooting impressions with the new Leica M10-P, not that new, reasonably new, and on the streets, because I did review the original M10 when it first came out, and I didn't have an opportunity to compare this against the M10, and really what I'm comparing is the new shutter dampening, quieting system. And on the streets, just here to report to you, even the M10 was quiet enough. Even the film Leicas, which is louder. So I did my review video unboxing and you heard it, but I'll do it again here. So here's the M10-P. And this is my M7 film camera. Oh, I better turn it on. Now I'm sure that sounds really loud in the microphone in this controlled environment, but on the street, film Leicas are quiet, right? Especially when you have a lot of ambient noise, maybe in a dark alley in the middle of the night when it's absolutely pin drop quiet. You know, you can hear that, but you know, on a regular basis on the street, this is reasonably quiet, but this is just super quiet. And the only issue I had was that dampening mechanism, and in my unboxing video I had said that there's kind of a vibration when you press the shutter, and I've been asking around and doing a little bit of research, and that vibration is the dampening mechanism post exposure. So the image is already taken, and then once the shutter closes, to make it quiet, that dampening mechanism kind of creates a little bit more vibration than I can feel in any of the other cameras that I had reviewed it against in terms of the shutter noise and feel. Two film Leicas and the M246. I did shoot some slow exposure images with this just to see sort of, you know, if I can feel the difference or see a difference. There was really no difference, but I didn't have an M10 to compare it against. So it's a kind of a real world test, not a controlled environment test. So I wouldn't be too worried about that slight vibration. But having the shutter that much quieter on the streets, I tried to focus on seeing if it could make a difference. And as I mentioned already with this film, like it's quiet enough that I wouldn't notice. So this thing is just extremely quiet, which is fantastic. And if that's really what you're looking for, other than the small aesthetic differences that I mentioned between the M10-P and the M10, a lot of it being the black dot, the screw there, instead of the Leica red dot, which a lot of people are not only used to seeing, but many want to buy it because of the red dot, but as well as the sort of the film camera engraving along the top instead of having it just kind of on the back here. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as shooting with the M10. I'll put the link down below for my M10 review that I had done a year and a half, 2 years ago, around there. But I love this the sensor combination. The fact that it's an M mount, you can use it on pretty much any M mount, or you can get an LTM, the Leica thread mount, to M mount adapter, and even get older lenses. So you can convert all those over to this. So these are a variety of lenses you can use. And one of the advantages of shooting with a digital Leica M, which is quite expensive and is out of the range for most people. So a lot of people look for the older M8 or the M9 because the prices are coming down, but still quite cost prohibitive for a lot of people. But if you do shoot film Leica, it's nice that you can go right from a film camera to a digital camera, and not only is the mount the same, but the way that you shoot is the same. And even the on and off switch on the M10 is exactly the same as my M7, which is when I push it, you push it to turn it off, and you kind of pull it this way to turn it on. So now it's on, right? If I push it here, see how it locks the shutter? Well, the M10 is the same. It's just push to turn off, and you pull it to turn on. And so when I went back and forth between my M7 and my M10, it just feels the same. And as I mentioned in my other video, even in terms of the thickness between the two is so similar, but it pretty much feels like you're shooting with a film M, especially when with the Leica M camera, either film or digital, you are manually focusing like this, and as well you are you know, if you're shooting manually, or like my M7, there's aperture priority on this, although with the rear dial, it's much faster to adjust plus or minus, which is great if you want to shoot an aperture priority. M7 you can as well, but you have to use this plus or minus back here, so it's a little bit harder to use. Not impossible, just slightly harder to use. So for me, if you are an M7 shooter, you'd be right at home with the M10 or the M10-P. Both are great. And as I was reviewing this, the Safari edition had just come out as well, which you're paying like another premium on top of this price. And so again, if you're baller and you have the money, then go for it. If not, get the M10. The biggest advantage in terms of shooting advantage, other than, you know, the quieter shutter doesn't make you shoot faster or better, but I do actually like so if you are shooting in live view, it is nice because some people had said, well, why would you want touch focus? It's because if you do touch the screen, it moves the focus point, and then when you start to manually focus, it'll zoom in on where you press it, and then you double tap, and it'll zoom, and then you can what's in here? You tap that mini window, then you can reposition the focus, not focus point, but where you want when it zooms in, when it peaks, you can tell where you want it in the scene to shift to. So especially if this is on a tripod, or you just want to quickly check any corner, it is a nice tool. And as well, when you're shooting overhead a little bit low and it's hard to manually focus, what I would do, which I did at times, is I would quickly manually focus first and then sort of shoot blind. But with the live view, you don't have to shoot blind. You can sort of see if you want exact framing at times. But the joy of shooting with a Leica M digital is, of course, shooting it through the rangefinder. And it is nice that you can sort of imagine the shot. And I've talked about this in other videos where, you know, a digital camera, you are seeing exactly, you know, the actual image, including the exposure, the white balance, what you're going to get. And that has a very functional, technical kind of a advantage. But in terms of a creative advantage, it's fantastic to be able to imagine a shot. So just imagine someone reading you a story, and in that story you're imagining all the characters, you know, and it's coming alive in your imagination. And likewise, when you shoot with a rangefinder, the weakness, of course, a technical disadvantage is that the framing is not exactly right. You're not seeing white balance, you're not seeing exposure. But in terms of a creative advantage, shooting through rangefinder is that once you get to understand how your camera works, you understand how the metering works, and especially if you're shooting with film, how a certain film reacts, then you start to imagine the shot. And I find that my images with both my film Leica rangefinder and my this digital Leica body is that in terms of my art, it's more conceptual, it's more imaginative versus getting a literal picture, a literal view of what you're gonna get. And it's maybe technically more correct, you know, the level's correct and no odd thing is finding its way into your frame. But I find it a little bit less creative, and that's perhaps just me. And so that's my quick overview of the Leica M10-P. I'm not gonna really talk so much about price because, you know, if you can afford digital M's, then you could pretty much afford the price, the $700, at this time anyways, the $700 difference between the M10 and the M10-P, and now even more so with the Safari edition with a separate but matching Safari green lens. So if you can afford that, that's great. If you do shoot like a digital M, I'd say it'd be fun as well, since you can afford it, to also shoot with a film M and sort of see the advantage of being able to switch back and forth between film and digital, and not, you know, which is better, you know, like which looks better or which is sharper, but really in terms of the different type of aesthetic, the kind of palette you can get when you go between film and digital. And the beauty of going between, like having your favorite lens. So right now on the M10, I have the 28 Summicron. Now I can shoot this lens on film and then switch over to digital. And in terms of feel, like, you know, my focusing tab, the aperture ring, all that, it just feels exactly the same. So there is no learning curve when I go from film to digital. It just feels seamless. And I don't chimp either. I turn off the preview, so maybe my initial shot in terms of exposure, I'll quickly check to make sure everything looks good. And then after that, or even depth of field, then it's a little bit of cheating, I guess. But once that's set, then I start shooting and I turn off preview and I just shoot like it's a film camera. And then when I sit down for coffee or whatever it is, then I can enjoy the images and be surprised at what I've taken, which is really what the joy of shooting with film was. If I can maybe give like a suggestion, is the Wi-Fi is a little bit finicky. It's not as easy as other cameras like the Fujifilms and the Canons be able to access your images. If I worked a little bit more, I'm sure I could have figured it out, but having Bluetooth is kind of the new thing, so it connects faster. And so perhaps in the next generation of these Leica M10, maybe the next one to be the M11, have Bluetooth version 4.2, 4.0, as well as Wi-Fi, and I think that'll be fantastic. So that's it. So thanks for watching, and happy shooting. Maybe you want to hear the film camera as well, right? All right.